Part 1 begins on a quiet night across the human frontier. Space looked calm, almost peaceful, but hidden inside that calm was an action that would change the future of two species forever. Far beyond the border, an alien collective known as the Arvani prepared a secret plan. They were curious about humanity. They believed humans grew stronger too quickly and suspected that humans were building a powerful warfleet in silence. The Arvani had done this to other young species before. They watched, studied, and then erased them if they felt threatened. Now humanity had reached their attention. The Arvani built a deep space array in a dark region where they thought no one would find them. The array was large and complex, made from long metal arms and spinning rings that gathered strange particles. It was designed to look through vast distances and break through strong security fields. The Arvani believed it could see anything, even the things other species tried to hide. They had confidence in their technology, confidence that had turned into pride over thousands of years. On the day their array powered up, the Arvani watching the scanners felt excited. They wanted proof of what they believed. They wanted to know if humans had a secret military force waiting to rise against the stars. When the array activated, a long wave of energy traveled across space. It moved silently, passing through dark matter, dust clouds, and old battle remains left by long-dead civilizations. The wave carried one purpose: to look at humanity's most hidden places. Inside the command chamber of the Arvani array, a group of specialists stood around a round platform. Many small lights flickered as lines of data flowed over the screens. One of the Arvani, a senior observer, leaned closer and said in a calm voice that they were almost at the boundary of the human secure zone. They all expected nothing unusual to happen. Every other species they had scanned before never noticed anything. They assumed this would be the same, but humanity was not the same. On the edge of Earth's protected region, inside a quiet tracking station, a human analyst detected something strange. Her name was Megan Ortiz. She sat alone in the dim room, studying signals that most people never saw. When the Arvani wave touched the human security wall, it created a tiny disruption. It lasted only for a moment, but it was enough. Megan looked at the reading again, confused at first, but her confusion quickly turned into concern. She leaned forward and whispered to herself that this was not a natural signal. It was organized, controlled, and strong enough to try to break into the most secure regions of human space. She reached for her console and immediately sent a priority alert to Earth Fleet Command. Lights flashed deep inside the main command center on Earth. People rushed to their stations. The alert was marked as high threat and needed the attention of General Lucas Harding. Harding was a calm man with sharp focus. He had served in many conflicts and understood how dangerous the unknown could be. He walked into the room as the screens showed the disruption Megan had detected. Harding asked who found it, and Megan appeared on the screen from her remote station. She explained everything in simple, steady words. She told them this was not an accident or a natural signal. Someone outside the border was trying to enter the restricted zones where humanity kept its most advanced warship information. The room grew quiet as everyone understood the seriousness of the situation. Harding asked Megan if she could trace the signal. She nodded and said she had already begun. The signal was faint, but not faint enough to hide from a trained analyst. She explained that the direction pointed toward a region far from human traffic. Harding gave her the order to continue and report every detail. Hours passed as Megan traced the signal. She studied each fragment and followed its trail like a hunter following footprints in the snow. Finally, she located the exact point where the signal began. It belonged to a large structure deep in unclaimed space. Megan narrowed her eyes as she studied it. She had never seen technology shaped like that before. She contacted Harding again and told him that the structure belonged to an unknown species, but based on old records, she believed it was Arvani. Harding felt a cold weight settle in his chest. The Arvani were known across some regions, not because they were friendly, but because they were secretive and dangerous. Their empire stayed out of politics, but their behavior toward other rising species was whispered about in old reports. Harding ordered a meeting with his top strategic officers. The room filled with quiet voices as people discussed the implications of the Arvani spying on them. Many in the room wondered why the Arvani had taken this risk. Others suggested it meant the Arvani feared humanity's growing strength. Harding listened to everyone and then made his decision. He told them that humanity would not respond with aggression yet. They would watch and study first. He ordered a covert counterintelligence operation. The goal was to learn as much as possible without provoking the Arvani. Harding knew that showing fear or anger too early could cause more trouble. He also knew that underestimating the Arvani could be fatal. Across the galaxy, inside the Arvani command center, the observers cheered quietly. Their array had finally passed into the human-restricted zone. They were excited to see what humans were hiding. They believed they were safe, untouchable, and protected by their distance and technology. None of them even imagined that humanity had already found them. As their screens lit up, the Arvani saw shapes forming. Their eyes widened as strange outlines appeared. The images were not clear, but they showed something unusual. The human Warfleet looked different from any other fleet they had ever scanned before. The shapes shifted, changed textures, and gave off patterns that looked almost alive. The Arvani did not understand what they were seeing. One Arvani specialist whispered that this could not be possible. No species they knew had ships that adapted their shape or energy signatures in real time. The others laughed and said maybe the scanner was broken. Their pride made them blind. They did not want to believe that humanity had advanced in ways that surpassed their expectations. But humanity had. Back on Earth, Megan Ortiz continued studying the Arvani scans. She found the pattern they used and analyzed the exact method of intrusion. She prepared a detailed report and sent it to Harding. When Harding read it, he understood the truth. The Arvani had intentionally broken through one of the strongest human security systems. This was not a mistake or casual curiosity. This was a test. Harding stared at the screen for a long moment. He knew what the Arvani were doing. They were trying to measure humanity's strength. They wanted to know how powerful humanity had become. He remembered old warnings about the Arvani. If they believed a species would become dangerous in the future, they acted first. They erased the threat. The thought made Harding feel a deep sense of urgency. He called Megan again and asked for the exact level of intrusion. Megan explained that the Arvani had not reached the deepest layers, but they were close. If they had not been detected, they might have gained access to classified fleet structures. Harding thanked her for her work and told her to prepare for continued monitoring. As hours turned into night on Earth, Harding walked outside the command building and looked at the sky. The stars were cold and quiet, but he knew the danger hiding among them. He felt the responsibility of protecting billions of human lives. He whispered to himself that the Arvani had crossed a line they should not have crossed. Meanwhile, on the Arvani array, activity grew louder. They increased the power of their scanners and pushed deeper. Their pride told them they controlled the situation. Their confidence made them careless. They did not know that humanity had already begun planning a response. Harding met with his council again and told them humanity needed to understand the full scale of the Arvani operation. He ordered covert ships to move closer to the array, to scan it, and to watch every move the Arvani made. He kept the operation hidden from the public. He wanted no panic, no fear, and no early reaction. Humanity would not let another species erase them. Megan continued to monitor the Arvani signal every hour. She watched as the intrusions grew deeper. She felt frustration and tension rise inside her. She wanted humanity to warn the Arvani, but she trusted Harding's judgment. He believed waiting would give humanity the advantage. Deep in Arvani space, the observers celebrated again as they pushed past another human security barrier. They told each other that the humans were weaker than the stories suggested. They believed humanity did not even notice them, but humanity noticed everything. As night turned into morning, Harding received a final update from Megan. She told him that the Arvani had reached a point that could not be ignored anymore. If they continued, they would soon learn details about humanity's warfleet that no foreign species should ever know. Harding nodded slowly and said that the time had come to send a warning. What the Arvani did next would determine everything that followed. Part 2 begins in the early hours of the next day across human space. The quiet warning that General Lucas Harding had prepared was sent toward the Arvani array through a controlled signal path. It was calm, direct, and clear. The message carried a simple demand. It told the Arvani to stop all scanning operations and to withdraw from human borders at once. The message did not carry threats or anger. It carried confidence. Harding wanted to give the Arvani one chance to avoid conflict. But the Arvani did not see it that way. When their command station received the message, the council gathered to read it. They reacted with confusion at first. Then confusion turned into amusement. They laughed at the idea that humans believed they could warn them. They believed humanity was still a young species with limited understanding of the wider galaxy. To them, the message felt like a sign of fear, not strength. One Arvani council member waved the message away and told the others that humans were trying to act bold. Another claimed humans were too late because the scans were already returning information. They talked about how strange the human fleet looked in the incomplete images, but they dismissed the shapes as errors in the scanners. Their pride made them blind again. They voted to continue the operation. They decided to increase the depth of their scan. They ordered their specialists to break through the next human barrier. The operators at the array obeyed immediately, unaware that humanity had already placed them on a watch list. Back on Earth, Megan Ortiz received the signal response from the Arvani. She read it carefully and felt a cold feeling in her chest. The Arvani had not stopped. Their scans continued, growing stronger, more focused, and more invasive. She knew this was trouble. She reported it to Harding without delay. Harding listened to Megan with a stern expression. The Arvani had made their choice. They ignored the warning. They thought humanity could be pushed aside. Harding stood still for a long moment before calling his council. The room filled once again with military officers and analysts. Harding explained the situation slowly, making sure everyone understood. The Arvani were not simply curious. They were testing defenses. They were testing reactions. They wanted to know if humanity would fight or hide. The council members debated what to do next. Some wanted a stronger warning. Others believed the Arvani had already crossed too many lines. Megan spoke through a hollow screen and explained that the Arvani scans were becoming more accurate each hour. She said they might soon see parts of the fleet that humanity could not afford to reveal. She reminded them that the Arvani were not harmless explorers. They were a species known for choosing violence if they believed another species might threaten them in the future. Harding listened to her carefully and nodded. He made his decision. He told the council that humanity would no longer wait. He ordered a stealth team to move into Arvani space. Their mission was to gather information and learn how deep the Arvani threat truly went. He wanted facts, not guesses. Commander Ryan Mercer was chosen to lead the mission. He was known for his calm nature and steady judgment. He assembled a small team and boarded a stealth ship designed for quiet travel. The ship left human space with no signal trail. It moved slowly across dark regions of space until it approached the Arvani array. Ryan watched the array from a distance. It was massive, with long metal structures that turned silently. Blue energy waves moved across its surface. Ryan told his crew to stay hidden and watch everything. They needed to understand how far the Arvani were willing to go. Inside the array, the Arvani continued their scans boldly. They pushed deeper into the human security wall. They believed there were no consequences for their actions. They did not know Ryan's team was observing them. Hours passed as Ryan collected data. He studied the energy patterns. He recorded the deep scan sequences. Everything he found pointed to one conclusion. The Arvani were preparing for something larger than simple observation. Ryan decided to take a risk. He ordered his team to infiltrate the array through a blind spot he detected in their scanning cycle. The stealth ship moved slowly and reached the outer ring of the structure. Ryan and two crew members entered through a maintenance tunnel. They moved carefully and quietly. Inside, the corridors were cold and filled with soft lights. Strange symbols covered the walls. The team scanned every room they passed. They found storage units, energy chambers, and control seats shaped for Arvani bodies. Everything felt sterile and precise. They entered a larger chamber and Ryan stopped as he saw something disturbing. A data console displayed information logs. He ordered his team to copy everything. When the files opened, Ryan felt a heavy weight in his chest. The logs showed records of previous species the Arvani had studied. The names of those species were followed by cold notes. Each note described how the Arvani identified a threat and removed it. Entire planets erased. Entire populations gone. They had done this many times. One note made Ryan's blood run cold. Humanity was listed among the rising species. The Arvani recorded observations from past decades. They watched human progress, their speed of growth, their creativity, and their unpredictable potential. The Arvani marked humanity as a possible future threat. The Arvani scan of humanity's Warfleet was not curiosity. It was phase one of their purge strategy. Ryan grabbed the files quickly and signaled his team to retreat at once. They moved fast through the corridors. One Arvani technician almost saw them, but Ryan pulled his team into a dark corner until the technician left. They exited the array and returned to the stealth ship. Ryan immediately sent a secure message to Harding. Harding read Ryan's report with deep shock. Megan also read the files and felt a deep fear she had not felt before. Harding gathered the council again and told them the truth. The Arvani had a history of erasing species they feared. Humanity was now on that list. The scanning operation was a preparation step. If humanity did nothing, the Arvani would strike in the future. There was no misunderstanding now. The Arvani saw humanity as a possible enemy to remove before it became too strong. The room grew silent. No one argued. No one suggested delaying. The decision was clear. Humanity had to act. Harding ordered the deployment of a rapid strike fleet. These ships were part of the most advanced portion of the human military. They moved through space with strong speed and surprising precision. Their adaptive structures allowed them to change shape and energy patterns, confusing enemy sensors. These were the ships the Arvani did not understand. As the fleet prepared for launch, Megan worked through the night. She monitored the Arvani scans and saw them growing more focused. She wondered if the Arvani understood what they had started. She doubted it. They had never faced a species like humanity before. The human fleet launched quietly, moving through space with purpose. Their goal was simple. They needed to remove the Arvani threat before the Arvani removed humanity. Ryan Mercer's team returned and joined the operation from a different angle. Ryan had seen what the Arvani were capable of. He knew humanity could not afford hesitation. Across the galaxy, the Arvani still believed they were safe. They watched their scanners and prepared for the next stage. They did not realize that humanity was already coming. The human fleet approached the Arvani outposts first. These small stations controlled the flow of data between the array and the Arvani home systems. The stations detected something approaching, but before they could react, human ships disabled their communication cores. No explosions, no alarms. The outposts went dark in seconds. The Arvani array was next. As the fleet moved closer, their adaptive structures changed shape repeatedly. The array scanners struggled to lock onto them. The Arvani specialists shouted in confusion as their instruments failed. They saw signals that vanished instantly. They saw shapes that did not stay still. Human ships surrounded the array quietly. Their weapons locked onto key points. Harding sent the order. The array shut down within minutes. The long arms broke apart. The energy waves faded. The scanners died. The Arvani inside panicked. They had never seen technology disrupt their systems so quickly. They had never been attacked with such speed. Their pride collapsed as they realized the warning humanity sent earlier had not been fear. It had been restraint. Now the restraint was gone. Humanity advanced toward the next targets. Arvani defense fleets moved to protect their borders, but they were unprepared. Their ships relied on predictable strategies. They expected clear patterns, but the human fleet created chaos. Human ships moved in unexpected ways, shifting their positions and energy signatures. The Arvani defensive lines broke apart. Ryan Mercer watched the battles unfold from his command screen. He saw human ships disabling Arvani vessels with precision. He saw the fear building in the Arvani pilots. He understood that the Arvani finally realized they had provoked the wrong species. Within hours, most Arvani outer defenses collapsed. Humanity had made its point. They were not prey. They were not weak. They were not a species that waited to be erased. When Harding received the battle reports, he felt no victory in his heart, only determination. The Arvani had forced humanity's hand. The next step would decide the fate of the Arvani species. The final message Harding sent to his fleet was calm. He told them to prepare for the next phase. Humanity would protect itself. The events that followed would shape the future of both species. Part 3 begins with the human fleet moving deeper into Arvani territory. The dark space ahead of them was quiet, but everyone aboard the ships knew that silence did not mean safety. The Arvani had built their empire over many centuries. They had strong defense lines, hidden stations, and fast reaction fleets. Humanity now moved into the heart of that dangerous region. General Lucas Harding watched the fleet from his command screen. Every movement was planned carefully. The adaptive ships changed shapes and energy forms as they flew, making it difficult for the Arvani to track them. Harding felt both pride and heavy responsibility. Humanity was crossing into a place that no other species had dared to challenge, but he also knew they had no choice. If they allowed the Arvani to continue, humanity would one day disappear like the other species in the Arvani logs. On another ship, Ryan Mercer prepared his team for the next stage. His calm voice helped steady everyone around him. He explained that they would soon approach the Arvani command hubs. These hubs controlled communication across the entire Arvani network. If humanity disabled them, the Arvani forces would become scattered and confused. Ryan studied the map again, tracing the lines of the Arvani relay systems. The hubs were protected by thick armor and guarded by elite ships, but humanity had something the Arvani did not expect. They had unpredictability. They had creativity, and they had the will to survive. Megan Ortiz sat at her console inside Earth Fleet Command, monitoring every pulse of energy and every signal from the field. She had not slept in many hours, but she did not feel tired. Her mind stayed sharp because she understood the stakes. She knew that the Arvani would strike with full force if they ever regained control. She also knew that humanity was only beginning to understand the Arvani threat. As she studied new data from Ryan's infiltration, Megan discovered more disturbing details in the files he had gathered. She found records of old Arvani leaders who wrote about the importance of removing potential threats before they could rise. These leaders believed that waiting for peace was weakness. They believed in acting early and acting hard. Megan understood now that even if humanity apologized or surrendered, it would not save them. The Arvani saw them as a danger simply because they were growing. She sent her analysis to Harding and warned him that the Arvani might launch a desperate counterattack soon. Harding nodded slowly when he read the message. He expected that. No empire surrenders quietly. The human fleet continued its advance and soon reached the first command hub. It was a dark metal structure floating behind a shield of glowing energy. Dozens of Arvani ships flew around it like silent guards. Their formation was tight and disciplined. They were ready for an attack. But humanity did not strike from the front. Ryan's team had studied the patterns long enough to find weak points. The human ships split into several groups, each moving at different angles. The Arvani scanners tried to follow them, but the adaptive ships blurred into strange shapes and confusing signatures. When the Arvani finally detected the human fleet, it was too late. The human ships had already surrounded the hub. Harding gave the order. Energy beams fired with sharp precision, hitting the hub's command ports. Arvani ships rushed to defend, but the human fleet moved like flowing water, shifting positions quickly. Their beams struck again and again until the shield collapsed. Inside the hub, Arvani officers felt panic. Their equipment flickered as human weapons hit vital systems. They tried to send distress calls, but the communication channels went silent one by one. Within minutes, the entire hub shut down. Its lights faded. Its engines died. The defending ships drifted helplessly. Ryan watched the scene with controlled emotion. He did not celebrate. He knew this was only the beginning. The Arvani had many hubs, and humanity had a long path to travel. Harding ordered the fleet to move forward. They destroyed 2 more hubs in the hours that followed. Each one fell faster than the last because the Arvani defense strategy began collapsing under the sudden pressure. Their fleets were used to fighting slowly rising threats. They could not understand how humans adapted so quickly. Across the Arvani Empire, fear began to grow. Messages from the outer regions were cut off. Commanders shouted orders that never arrived at their destinations. The neat organization of their system broke apart like glass struck by a hammer. In one Arvani city, leaders gathered in a round hall to discuss the crisis. Their voices were tense. Some asked why the humans attacked with such strength. Others asked who had started the chain of events. When the truth came out, when they learned their own spies had tried to break into humanity's secrets, the hall grew silent. One leader whispered that they had underestimated humans. Another whispered that they had provoked a species they did not understand. But many leaders still believed the Arvani would win. They claimed their numbers and their history would protect them. They ordered the main fleets to regroup and prepare for the largest battle in their history. Humanity continued to advance. Each battle cost the Arvani more ships and more confidence. Human ships moved with precision, disabling Arvani vessels instead of destroying them when possible. It was efficient, it was strategic, and it showed a terrifying level of control that the Arvani did not expect from a younger species. Ryan's ship flew near the edge of a large Arvani defense line. He could see thousands of ships in the distance forming a barrier. His crew felt the tension rise. They all knew this would be one of the hardest battles they had ever faced. Harding sent a calm message to the fleet. He reminded them why they fought, not for glory, not for conquest, for survival. Humanity had to stop the Arvani, or one day humanity would vanish from history. The battle began with a flash of bright light as Arvani ships fired. Their beams shot across space with incredible power. But the human fleet shifted in an instant. Their adaptive systems bent the beams around them or absorbed some of the energy into their shields. The Arvani expected their first strike to cripple the humans, but it achieved almost nothing. Human ships returned fire with controlled bursts. Instead of hitting random targets, each shot hit an exact weak point in the Arvani formation. Their line broke in the center. Confusion spread across their channels. Officers demanded new orders, but their commanders were overwhelmed. Ryan's ship moved directly into the broken formation. He ordered his crew to disable the engines of as many Arvani ships as possible. Blue pulses shot from his ship, hitting engines and shutting them down instantly. The Arvani ships drifted helplessly. On one of the Arvani vessels, a young officer stared at his screen in shock. He whispered that he had never seen ships move that fast. Another officer shouted that humans were unpredictable. Their systems did not follow any known pattern. Their weapons struck with strange precision. Panic began to grow. Within an hour, the Arvani defense line collapsed. The remaining ships retreated, flying back toward their inner systems. Humanity had broken through the largest barrier protecting the Arvani core. Harding did not celebrate. He studied the map quietly as new data came in. Megan sent him a message that stunned the entire command center. She had finished analyzing more files from Ryan's infiltration. She discovered the Arvani had built something dangerous in their home system, something that could harm entire planets. She believed it was meant for any species they saw as a threat. Harding understood the meaning. The Arvani did not plan to negotiate. They planned to erase. He called his fleet leaders and explained the situation in simple words. They needed to reach the Arvani home world quickly. If they waited, the Arvani might activate the unknown weapon. And if they did, humanity might lose billions of lives. The fleet moved again. This time there was no pause, no rest. Every ship pushed forward. Ryan's voice stayed calm as he guided his team. He told them the next battle would decide everything. Humanity had come too far to turn back. When the Arvani learned that the human fleet was approaching their home system, panic spread everywhere. Families fled their cities. Soldiers prepared for a last stand. Leaders argued in fear. They had believed for centuries that they were safe from any threat. They believed their methods kept them in control. Now they faced a species that fought with purpose and intelligence. Some Arvani leaders shouted that they should surrender. Others refused and said they could still win if they used their secret weapon. They argued until alarms echoed across the hall. The human fleet had arrived. Ryan's ship rose through the darkness toward the glowing surface of the Arvani home world. The skies above the planet were filled with thousands of Arvani ships, forming one final defense. Harding's voice came over the fleet network. He reminded everyone that they did not fight for revenge. They fought so humanity would survive. He told them to be strong, to be steady, to finish what the Arvani had begun. The final battle was moments away, and everyone knew that when it ended, the galaxy would change forever. Part 4 begins with the human fleet standing before the Arvani home system. It was a place filled with bright stars, glowing rings of dust, and the strong presence of a civilization that had existed for thousands of years. But now, fear had taken the place of pride. The Arvani waited for the humans, hoping their final defenses would hold, but deep inside they knew the truth. Humanity had come too far and fought too well. They could not be stopped anymore. General Lucas Harding watched the battlefield from his command bridge. His face was calm, but inside he carried the weight of everything that would happen next. He did not enjoy war. He did not want destruction, but he understood what the Arvani had planned for humanity. If they survived today, humanity would not. There was only one choice now. Ryan Mercer stood on his own ship, adjusting his gear and preparing his crew for the final operation. He looked out the window at the vast sight of the Arvani defense fleet. Thousands of ships formed a massive shield around their world. Ryan felt steady and ready. He knew fear, but he also knew duty. He reminded his crew that this battle was not about hate. It was about making sure humanity had a future. Megan Ortiz watched everything through her screens in Earth Fleet Command. She felt her heart sink when she saw how many Arvani ships filled the sky. She also saw something else. She detected strong energy readings deep inside the Arvani home system. It matched the patterns of the dangerous technology she had found in their files. She sent Harding a message instantly. Harding read the report. He understood exactly what it meant. The Arvani were preparing to activate their secret weapon. No one knew what it would do, but based on their history, it could destroy entire planets. Harding made his decision. Humanity would strike before the Arvani finished their weapon. He opened the fleet channel and spoke in a calm voice. He told them the Arvani were preparing an attack that could end millions of lives. Humanity had to act fast. His voice stayed steady, but everyone felt the seriousness of his words. The fleet prepared for the final push. The Arvani fired first. Bright beams shot across space in wide arcs. The sky lit up with the colors of war. Human ships responded by shifting their forms again. Their adaptive surfaces bent the beams around them or divided the shots into weaker lines. The Arvani expected destruction from their first attack, but instead they watched in horror as the humans moved closer without slowing down. Ryan's ship flew through the chaos. His crew worked together with perfect timing, adjusting shields, targeting weak points, and avoiding incoming fire. Every ship around him moved in perfect formation. It looked almost like a dance shaped by survival and trust. The battle grew louder as the two sides closed in. Arvani ships fired in all directions, but their formation broke quickly under pressure. Human ships attacked with sharp accuracy, hitting only the vital parts of the Arvani fleet. Engines shut down, weapons failed, ships drifted as their systems collapsed. Inside the Arvani capital station, leaders watched their screens in disbelief. Their strongest fleets were failing. Their defense lines were shattering. Panic spread through the room. One leader shouted that they should activate the secret weapon immediately. Another yelled that they needed more time. They argued while their world fell apart. Ryan received new orders. His team had to stop the weapon before it could activate. He guided his ship through the battle, moving toward the energy signal Megan had identified. The closer he flew, the stronger the energy became. It pulsed like a heartbeat, cold and dangerous. As he approached the source, he saw a huge structure floating above the Arvani home world. It was shaped like a giant spear pointing downward. Energy waves moved along its surface, gathering strength. Ryan understood that if this weapon fired, everything nearby would vanish. He ordered his team to prepare for a direct strike. They targeted the weapon's core. Human ships behind him followed his lead. Harding gave permission to use full power. The human fleet fired together. Dozens of beams shot across space and hit the weapon. The structure shook, sending bursts of light in all directions. Arvani engineers inside the weapon tried to stabilize it, but the human attack was too strong. Their screens went dark. Their systems failed. Then the energy at the core collapsed inward and shut down. The weapon was silent. The Arvani leaders froze as the lights in their command room dimmed. Their last hope was gone. Many stared at the floor, refusing to believe what was happening. Others whispered that humanity had become something they had never imagined. A species that should have been weak had become unstoppable. Harding saw the weapon fail on his screen. He felt relief, but he also felt sorrow. The battle was almost over. Humanity had won. But winning meant deciding what to do with the Arvani now. The Arvani fleet around the planet finally broke. Their ships scattered. Their commanders surrendered or shut down their engines. The sky slowly calmed as the last shots faded. Harding opened a channel to the Arvani leadership. His message was simple. Humanity did not want to rule them. Humanity did not want their territory or their resources. Humanity wanted only one thing: safety. He told the Arvani that their attempts to erase other species had brought this upon themselves. If they had chosen peace, none of this would have happened. The Arvani leaders listened silently. They had no answer. They knew their actions had caused their downfall. Ryan led the final operation. He and his team boarded the Arvani command station. Inside, he walked through long halls filled with quiet and fear. Arvani officers stood against the walls, defeated. Ryan reached the central chamber where the remaining leaders waited. He spoke to them in a calm voice. He told them that humanity would not destroy their planet, but humanity would not allow them to remain a threat. Their military systems would be shut down. Their long-distance technology would be disabled. Their empire would come to an end. The Arvani listened, and finally one of them spoke. His voice was soft. He asked why humanity had spared them when the Arvani had planned to wipe humans out. Ryan answered with simple words. Humanity fought only to survive, not to conquer, not to destroy. The Arvani lowered their heads. Back on Earth, Megan sent her final report. She wrote that the Arvani had fallen because they believed fear was strength. They believed control was peace. They believed destroying others protected their future. But humanity saw the universe differently. Humanity understood that survival came from courage, creativity, and hope. Harding read the report and closed his eyes for a moment. He felt tired, but he also felt proud. Humanity had faced a powerful enemy and survived. They had saved themselves without becoming monsters. The final step of the mission began. Human ships disabled every remaining Arvani military outpost. They shut down the last active scanners. They removed the last weapons. They left the Arvani world quiet and unable to strike again. Ryan looked at the Arvani home world from his window. Cities glowed softly beneath the clouds. The people there would wake up in a new era, an era where they could no longer harm others, an era where they might finally learn peace. Harding sent the fleet one final message. He thanked every man and woman who had fought. He reminded them that they had protected not just humanity, but the future itself. The human fleet then turned away from Arvani space. Their engines lit up one by one. The ships began their long journey home. No cheers filled the halls. No celebrations echoed through the ships, only quiet relief. The Arvani were no longer a threat. Their empire, once feared across the galaxy, had ended in silence. When the human fleet disappeared into the stars, the Arvani world felt small and humbled. Their leaders finally understood the mistake they had made when they tried to peek at humanity's Warfleet. They had awakened something powerful, something they should never have challenged. And so, in the long history of the galaxy, the Arvani became a story, a warning, a reminder that fear-driven power leads only to downfall. Humanity returned home stronger and wiser. They had survived a threat meant to erase them, and in doing so, they erased a darkness that had hidden in the galaxy for too long.